Hello again, Taurus. It's June 2015. Dadhichi here from astrology.com.au with your brief monthly forecast. And your second house, this is the house of material resources, income, is very strongly activated this month. It is the focus of your life, at least for most of you. And we see Mercury, the Sun, and Mars all transiting this area now. By the way, Mercury's been retrograde, and if any of you have looked at the video that I introduced a month with, I was speaking about the misunderstandings that often surround the idea of retrogression. I did use Taurus as an example in that introduction, and I'll elaborate that a little bit more, because Mercury rules your second and your fifth house. Second house is finance, fifth house is one of the better triangular houses, what we call trinal house. It's a house of future karma. It's a speculative house. And having Mercury in retrogression should generally for you work well. Doesn't mean you should avoid the usual sorts of cautionary advice that is given when you do business financially, but ordinarily this should have been a period, and is a period for you now, which should bring you some good fortune financially. You do, however, have the problem, not so much, some of you who are having troubles in finances might be mistakenly looking at the retrogression of Mercury rather than the combustion of Mars by the Sun, the other two planets that are in that second house, and of course the opposition from Saturn. It's a good planet for you as well, one of your, in fact, the best planet. But being in the 8th house, that could be causing some problems. So let's not automatically assume that the problem you've got financially is because of Mercury. Actually, Mercury may be helping you during this particular cycle. And one thing I wanted to talk about was the fact that the full moon takes place in that 8th house of shared resources. So not only your own personal income, that happens on the 3rd of June. And then the transit of Venus to the 4th house of property and other fixed assets on the 6th of June. All of these lead me to point towards this second house of financial and material resources being important for you this month. And the combustion of Mars, which is your planet of partnership in that area, by the Sun, which is ruling the 4th house of property and family, could be the source of some of the problems, not necessarily from Mercury. But that being the case, you do have to be careful in how you present your ideas, how you engage these significant others in discussions over money and those resources, especially shared resources. For those of you that are in a business partnership, as an example, that may be more important than for the rest of you Taurians watching this. So that's the first part of the month. You've got generally some good aspects there, such as the trine aspect of Venus to Saturn, your ruler. That's from the 4th to the 8th on the 6th, and leading up to that. The Sun in sextile to Jupiter from the 2nd to the 4th house. That's on the 9th. Mars in that 2nd house, sextiling Uranus in the 12th house. That's the house of expenses. That can interestingly be an unexpected source of, well, I would say expenses, but those expenses may be based upon some form of generosity as well, because the 12th house is the house of compassionate work, charity, etc. Someone may be sick, you may be forced out of the blue, out of conscience or necessity to help them through these transits, and that comes out of the blue because of the fact that Uranus is a sudden, abrupt and unexpected type of action. Now Mercury goes direct on the 12th of June, so even if you've seen some problems there or some complications, it's after that date that you can start to see a bit more of a forward moving energy with respect to those things. At the same time, Neptune, the planet ruling your 11th house of friends, which is in the 11th house of friends now, also has to do with your fulfillment of dreams is moving retrograde after that date. So when one set of problems is sorted out, then we see a shift taking place to that other area in your horoscope. The problem aspects are there as well. Not so many of them, but just as an example, on or about the 18th of June, that square aspect of Jupiter in your 4th house to the Sun, and that will happen to some of you on different dates, not exactly on this date, but it will happen. That has a bit to do with overextending yourself, particularly in areas of the home. So if you're planning to build, or if some of these financial issues that I'm talking about have to do with matters of construction or building, then of course you will need to. Oh, I have someone visiting here. Yes, please bring my tea. I need my tea for these Taurian people. Thank you, Dina. Thank you. Then you could be overextending yourself in that sense, and you maybe need to rethink your plan. The other hard aspect there on the 24th, leading up to that date as well, is to do with that second house Mercury with the 11th house Neptune. And that's got to do with friendships. I would say you must take precautions not to be too open, not too giving, not too trusting as well, particularly when it comes to money, because we see the focus there along with that full moon in the first few days of the month in the 8th house of shared resources. So giving away money without qualifying people is a no-no. The end of the month is nice with your ruling planet Venus forming great aspects. Well, one difficult aspect to the Sun from that 4th house as well. That just consolidates what I said about Jupiter in square to the Sun, about overextending yourself and being a little bit overconfident in what you're capable of affording, perhaps. But the triangular aspect to Uranus on the 29th, the last day of the month, is quite favourable and brings with it some little quirks in relationships, meeting unusual people and having a little bit of fun in a social sense. Look forward to your company next month. For more detail on this, monthly, daily, yearly readings and lots of free readings as well, astrology.com.au, and I look forward to your company here next month. Bye-bye.